What happens when a wildlife expert and a beloved talk show host clash on live television in a way absolutely no one expected? The cameras were rolling. The audience was laughing. And then everything changed in an instant that left the entire studio frozen in silence. Before we jump into the moment that stunned everyone, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments, did Robert cross the line or did Kelly overreact? Now, let's get into it. The Kelly Clarkson Show was midway through taping another upbeat episode, and Robert Irwin was the guest everyone had been buzzing about. He walked out with his usual enthusiasm, carrying a small container that clearly had something inside. The audience erupted. Kelly gave him her signature warm hug as he settled onto the couch. "Robert, it's so good to have you here," she said, smiling. "Every time you come on this show, I'm excited but also terrified because I never know what you're about to pull out of those boxes." Robert laughed, setting the container gently on the table. "Well, Kelly, I promise this one is harmless. I think you're really going to like her." Kelly raised an eyebrow. "Okay, see? That kind of talk is exactly what makes me nervous." "What's in there?" "This," Robert announced, opening the lid, "is a blue-tongued skink. She's absolutely beautiful and completely docile. Native to Australia, one of the gentlest reptiles on the planet." He lifted the foot-long lizard out with care. The audience murmured in fascination. Kelly leaned back, just slightly still smiling, but definitely unsure. "Okay. She's actually kind of cute," Kelly admitted. "But I'm going to be honest. I'm not a huge reptile person. I appreciate them from a distance." "I get that," Robert said, stroking the skink. "But that fear so many people have of reptiles. It's actually harmful to conservation. These animals are misunderstood, and they deserve respect, not fear." There was a subtle shift in his tone, just sharp enough that Kelly picked up on it. Her smile tightened. "Well," she said, "I think people can respect animals without necessarily wanting to hold them. Don't you?" "Sure," Robert replied. "But when people like you, with massive platforms, reinforce the idea that reptiles are scary or gross, it tells millions of viewers it's okay to fear them. And that has consequences." The room went still. Kelly blinked, caught off guard. "People like me." "Robert, I've never said reptiles are gross. I just said I'm not comfortable holding them." "That's very different, is it though?" Robert leaned forward. "Your body language, the way you pulled back, that sends a message. And when someone with your influence sends that message, it undermines everything conservationists are trying to do." Kelly's expression hardened. "Robert, I think you're reading way too much into a natural reaction. I lean back when people bring out spiders too. That doesn't mean I'm campaigning against them." "But you normalize the fear," he insisted. "My entire life has been about showing the world these animals aren't monsters. My father died doing this work, Kelly, and when I come on a show like this and see fear of subtle fear, it sets us back." The studio was now completely silent. Kelly set her note cards aside, jaw tight. "First of all, I have nothing but respect for your father and your family's work. But you don't get to lecture me on my own show about my natural reactions. I've had you on multiple times. I've held snakes. I've had spiders on me. I've done all of that to support what you do. And I appreciate that," Robert said, though his tone suggested otherwise. "But appreciation isn't enough. We need people to actually change their perspective. Not just tolerate animals for a 5-minute segment." Kelly laughed, but it wasn't her usual warm laugh. It was sharp. "Are you seriously sitting on my couch telling me I'm not doing enough for wildlife conservation? Robert, this is a daytime talk show. We're here to entertain. I'm not running a documentary series." "Maybe that's the problem," Robert fired back. "Maybe if shows like yours took conservation seriously instead of treating animals like circus acts, We'd be in a better place as a planet. The audience gasped. Kelly stood. For a moment, it looked like she might walk off her own set. Instead, she faced him directly, her voice calm but icy. I want to be very clear. I invited you here as a guest. I've supported your work and given you a platform to reach millions. But I will not be disrespected on my own show. If you think what we do is treating animals like circus acts, maybe you shouldn't have come. Robert stood, too still, holding the skink. And that's when everything truly fell apart. Asterisk, maybe you're right, Robert said, his voice flat. Maybe I shouldn't have come. Because clearly, you're more interested in getting laughs than actually making a difference. Gasps rippled through the audience. Get off my stage, Kelly shot back, her voice slicing through the stunned silence. Right now, we're done here. Gladly. Robert snapped the container shut and stood. I have better places to be than somewhere that treats important work like entertainment filler. Security, Kelly called out. But no one moved. The producers were frozen. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every second of the unraveling. Robert started toward the edge of the stage. Kelly sank into her chair, visibly shaking, whether from fury or shock. No one could tell. The audience sat in absolute stillness, unsure if applause, concern, or complete silence was the right response, just as Robert stepped off the stage. Kelly's voice cut through the air again. You know what, Robert? Your father would be ashamed of how you just acted. The room imploded into gasps. Robert stopped dead. He turned slowly, the color draining from his face. The container trembled slightly in his hands. What did you just say? His voice was barely above a whisper, but in the dead silence, it landed like a thunderclap. Kelly opened her mouth, then closed it again. For the first time since the argument began, she looked unsure. Robert, I know, he said, stepping back onto the stage. Repeat it. You want to talk about my father? Let's talk about him. He kept walking until he stood center stage again. Let's talk about how he spent every single day of his life trying to teach people that every creature matters. Let's talk about how he died doing that work. I shouldn't have said that, Kelly murmured. That was out of line, you think. Robert's voice cracked as anger and grief collided. You think implying my dad would be ashamed of me is just a little out of line. That's what you do when someone challenges you on your own show. Kelly stood again, hands raised. Robert, I apologized. I was angry. I said something hurtful. I shouldn't have. But you came out here and attacked me for what? Not being enthusiastic enough about a lizard. It's not about the lizard. Robert's voice broke. It's about what you represent. You have millions of people watching you every day, and you use that platform to sell products, make jokes, do celebrity gossip. When someone tries to talk about something meaningful, you treat it like a novelty act. That is not fair, Kelly fired back. Her voice was rising too. I've had countless guests speak about important causes. I've raised money for charities. I've highlighted issues most daytime shows wouldn't touch. You don't get to erase all of that because I don't want to cuddle every reptile you bring. But that's the thing, Kelly, Robert countered. You do hold them. You do it for the cameras, for the bit, for the reaction. But the moment we try to talk seriously about conservation, you pull back. You get defensive. You make it about yourself, because you made it about me. Kelly threw her hands out in frustration. You walked on my stage, and instead of just educating people, you decided to criticize me. How does that help your cause? How does alienating someone who has supported you help conservation? Robert set the container on the table with a thud. You want to know why I said what I said? He snapped. Because I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I go on these shows and hosts pretend to care for 7 minutes before pivoting to a cooking demo or a celebrity wedding. I'm tired of being the entertainment. My family's work, my father's life fit, meant something. It still does. It's not a cute segment between recipes and a musical performance. The audience was riveted, sitting as still as statues. Kelly folded her arms. So what do you want from me, Robert? Do you want me to cancel the rest of the episode? Turn this into a wildlife documentary. Dedicate every day to conservation. Because that's not what this show is, and you knew that when you agreed to come. I want authenticity, Robert said quietly. And I want you to stop pretending. If you don't care about these animals, if you're just tolerating them for ratings, then say that, Robert said. Be honest. Don't smile for the cameras and pretend to be fascinated when you're really counting down the seconds until I leave. Kelly's eyes flashed. You want authenticity. Fine. Here's authentic. Yes, Robert time's sometimes uncomfortable around reptiles. Yes, there are segments, including yours, where I'm counting the seconds. You know why? Because this is my job. I do 4 shows a week. I interview dozens of guests. I can't be emotionally invested in every single topic. That doesn't mean I don't respect your work. It means I'm human. At least that's honest, Robert said, nodding slowly. So all those times you told me the animals were amazing, that the work was important to you, were lying? I wasn't lying, Kelly snapped, frustration sharpening her tone. I do think it's amazing. I do think it's important. But I can believe something matters without dedicating my life to it. You're holding me to an impossible standard. No, Robert said, I'm holding you to the standard my father set. He believed everyone has a responsibility to care about the natural world, not just experts, everyone, and people with influence people. Like you have an even greater responsibility. Kelly let out a bitter laugh. Your father was a saint to you, Robert. I get that. But not everyone can be Steve Irwin. Not everyone can devote their entire life to one mission. Some of us have to balance multiple things. Some of us have to entertain millions of people while also trying to inform them. It's not as simple as you're pretending it is. Don't you dare talk about my father like you knew him. Robert's voice dropped to a dangerous quiet. Don't pretend you understand what he believed. I'm not saying I knew him, Kelly replied firmly. But I know what the world saw. I know what he stood for. And I know he'd probably be horrified watching you attack someone who's given you multiple platforms to share your message. He brought people together, Robert. He didn't blow up on them. A murmur spread through the audience, some siding with Kelly. Others visibly bristling at her words. Robert's jaw tightened. You have no right to tell me what my father would think. And for the record, you've invited me here 3 times. Each time, it's the same. You act nervous around the animal. You make jokes about being scared. You wrap it up with a thank you, and then you move on. Nothing changes. Nothing sinks in. It's just entertainment. Then stop coming. Kelly threw her hands up. If it's such a horrible experience, if I'm such a disappointment, then decline the invitation next time. But don't walk onto my stage, accept my hospitality, and then attack me for not living up to some impossible moral standard. Maybe I will stop coming, Robert shot back. Maybe that's exactly what needs to happen, because clearly this isn't working. Fine by me. Kelly folded her arms. I have plenty of other guests who actually appreciate the opportunity to reach this audience. You mean guests who smile and nod and give you exactly what you want, Robert said. Guests who won't challenge you or make you uncomfortable. I mean guests who understand basic professionalism, Kelly countered. Guests who don't throw tantrums because I'm not fawning over their segment. Robert picked up his container. This isn't a tantrum. Kelly, this is me finally saying what conservationists have been saying for years. People like you treat our work like a joke. And this, Kelly fired back, is me finally saying what I've been thinking. Your arrogance is exhausting. You act like your cause is the only one that matters. Newsflash. Everyone's work is important to them. You're not special just because you work with animals. The words hung between them like a wall. Robert's face flushed red. Kelly's hands shook slightly at her sides, though she kept her chin lifted. "Get off my stage," she said again, each word deliberate. "This interview is over. This relationship is over. You are no longer welcome here." Robert nodded once. "Trust me," he said coldly. "I won't be back." He turned and walked off, not stopping this time, not even glancing over his shoulder. Kelly stood alone in the center of the stage, watching him disappear through the side exit. The studio was eerily silent. Cameras stayed trained on her, capturing every breath. Every tremor, she looked out at the audience, hundreds of faces staring back. Some shocked, some sympathetic, some judging. "Well," Kelly said at last, her voice trembling just slightly. "That was something." A few nervous laughs tried to break through, but died quickly. She sank into her chair, running a shaky hand through her hair. "I need a minute here, folks. I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty shaken." The audience stayed quiet, waiting. Kelly glanced off stage at her producers, then back at the crowd. "You know what?" she said. "No, I'm not going to pretend that didn't just happen. We're live. You all saw it. And I think we need to talk about it." She drew a steadying breath. "I've been doing this show for years. Thousands of guests have sat on this couch. I've had awkward moments, disagreements, but never, ever has someone treated me the way Robert just did." A few audience members nodded. Others shifted, unsure. Asterisk. "I get it," Kelly said, steadying her voice. "I understand that he's passionate about his work. I know conservation matters. I have never not once suggested otherwise. But what just happened here? That wasn't about conservation. That was about him deciding that because I'm not as passionate as he is, because I don't devote my entire life to wildlife, that somehow makes me the enemy." She rose again, pacing slowly, her energy shifting from shaken to resolute. "I work hard on this show. We all do, my team, my crew. Everyone you see and everyone you don't. We pour ourselves into creating something that brings people joy. We laugh together, we cry together, we celebrate together. And yes, we try to inform and educate when we can. But we're not a nature documentary. We're a talk show. And that has value too." A smattering of applause started, but Kelly lifted a hand for quiet. "What really bothers me," she continued, "is that Robert brought up his father over and over again. He weaponized his father's legacy to make a point. And then when I said one thing which I immediately regretted and apologized for, he acted like I'd committed the ultimate sin." She paused, her eyes glinting with emotion. "I lost my father too. I know that grief intimately, and I would never use it to make someone feel small or to win an argument. That's not okay. No matter how important your cause is, you don't get to do that." This time, the audience applauded openly. Kelly acknowledged it with a small nod. "And I'm tired," she said, her voice trembling just a little, "of being made to feel guilty for being human. I've held snakes on this show. I've let tarantulas crawl on me. I've done things that terrify me because I want to support the people who come here. But apparently, that's not enough. Apparently, unless I'm ready to quit my job and move to Australia to work at a wildlife sanctuary, I'm part of the problem." The laugh she gave was half genuine, half exhausted. "That's not fair. And honestly, that kind of attitude doesn't inspire people, it pushes them away. You don't create change by making everyone who isn't you feel inadequate." She sat again, smoothing her dress as she gathered herself. "Let me be very clear. I still respect the Irwin family. I still think wildlife conservation is important. Nothing that happened changes that. But what does change is my willingness to be lectured and belittled by someone who seems to think he holds the moral high ground on everything. She turned directly to the camera. Robert Tiff, you're watching. And I'm sure you owe me an apology. Not for disagreeing with me, not for being passionate, but for the way you spoke to me. For the disrespect. For coming on my show and choosing confrontation over education. The audience applauded again. She waited for them to settle, and for everyone at home. I'm okay. I'm upset. I'm angry, but I'm okay. What I won't do is let someone make me feel like I'm not doing enough because I don't meet their personal standard of activism. She picked up her cards, stared at them, and put them down again. We had 2 more segments, planned a cooking demo and a musical performance, but honestly, I don't think any of us are in the right headspace. Is it okay if we just talk? The audience responded with warmth and encouragement. Someone shouted, "We love you, Kelly." Cheers followed. Kelly's eyes filled again. Thank you. Truly, I feel like I just got hit by a truck and I'm questioning everything about how I handled that. You did great. Someone called, "Did I?" She asked softly. Because part of me wonders if he's right. Maybe I should be doing more. Maybe I'm not using my platform the way I should. A wave of no swept through the crowd. An older woman stood. I've watched your show since day one. You're real. You're not perfect, and you don't pretend to be. What he did up here, that wasn't okay. He didn't come to educate. He came looking for a fight. Applause burst again. Kelly pressed a hand to her chest. Thank you. That means more than you know. A younger man spoke next. I work in conservation, and he was way out of line. That's not how you get people to care. That's how you alienate allies. Thank you, Kelly said, nodding vigorously. Exactly. Then a woman at the back raised her voice. I think you were both wrong. He shouldn't have attacked you, but what you said about his father, that was harsh. The audience groaned, but Kelly lifted a hand. No, she's right. That was the worst thing I said, and I regret it deeply. I was hurt and angry, and I lashed out. If I could take it back, I would. She looked back into the camera.